Uh, Good evening, everybody who is following us on live stream on YouTube and Facebook. My name is Davide Giglio. I'm the Italian representative in Taipei. I'm pleased to be here tonight at Taipei International Book Exhibition, which, due to some health restrictions, is taking place in remote. And we have the opportunity tonight to reach out to the public in Taipei about an Italian exhibition, which we had intended to show in the physical presence, but unfortunately we had to reroute to the online format. And the exhibition is about Italian manga, Italian comics. Or better, maybe the interpretation that Italian illustrators and graphic designers have given to the Japanese manga. So tonight I'm here with two experts of this important art. One is local and based in Taiwan for over 20 years, and is Stefano Misesti, an Italian illustrator and comics artist. And live from Italy, from Naples, is Matteo Stefanelli, who is the festival director of Napoli Comic-Con, which is one of the most important Italian comic exhibition and events in Italy.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. I think we put together today three countries, so to say, Italy, Japan, and Taiwan together, and that are united by a special relationship that they have with each other. Japan is the common denominator of the three because, of course, Taiwan has historical reasons and geographic reasons to be especially connected to Japan. But also Italy has a special history with a very remote country, such as Japan. But especially in arts, Italy and Japan have been traditionally very close, and there has been a great exchange, cross-fertilization, particularly in visual arts. So anime and manga, and the Italian interpretation that Italy gives of comics, have a history that goes back at least to the 19th century, when Japanese artistic expression, particularly in what was called the ukiyo-e, the wood prints, became very successful and very popular all over Europe, but also in Italy. And they were very much in demand by the local consumers in Italy and in Europe. And at the same time, Japan reached out to Italy to learn about the most modern interpretations of painting and graphic expressions. And actually, some Italians moved from Italy to, to Japan to teach Japanese the most modern techniques. Among them, I would like to remember one, which was Vincenzo Ragusa, a painter and a sculptor, who taught in Japan for almost 20 years, and basically helped a generation of Japanese artists to develop a special affinity for Italian paintings and art. So the comics basically draw upon this legacy that exists between the two countries. In more modern times, of course, we have comics and anime. But on this, I'm not an expert. And I would like to let the experts speak about this. So I want to thank Matteo Stefanelli and Stefano Misesti, and especially also Taipei International Book Exhibition for creating this opportunity for letting the Taiwanese know more about Italian manga. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so today we talk about the Italian scene of comics with Mr. Stefanelli. And Mr. Giglio said it's an artist, a director of Napoli Comic-Con. one of the most important event about comics in Italy, and I think in Europe, because it's a very, very, vibrant exhibition there. So I want to ask Matteo Stefanelli to talk something about this beautiful festival, this important festival, and why it's so important for Italy, and for Europe. Because I know there are many events, there are many guests, and but I want to let Matteo to talk about this festival. Okay, Matteo.
Yes. Thank you, Stefano, and thank you to the Taipei International Book Exhibition. Thank you also to Davide and the Italian Foreign Office in Taipei. Hello, everyone. I'm the artistic director of Comic-Con Festival, one of the most visited festival about comics and pop culture in Europe and in Italy, held in Naples. I'm speaking from Milano, but I work with my colleagues in Naples. Comic-Con is a festival held every year in the fair, in the main exhibition center of the city in Naples. It brings more than 150,000 people, more or less. It's a festival born 20 years ago, a little bit more than 20 years ago, 22 years ago. It was a pure comics festival 20 years ago. In the last few years, the festival grew and has grown as a pop culture festival, like San Diego Comic-Con, Comic Convention in the USA, or many other examples worldwide. So it's also a festival about video games, TV series, cinema, and role-playing games, cosplay, and such.
Yeah, many.
You can see some of our guests.
We are looking at a slide with many guests, and there are many important illustrators and comics authors from around the world.
Yeah, it's pretty an international festival. So we have a special emphasis on Italian production and Italian artists. We organize some hundreds of panels and meetings every edition, but also we invite artists from Asia or different European countries or from North America or South America. So we had the opportunity to have from Go Nagai or Frank Miller from US, or Mebius from France, or Jim Lee from United States. So we are an international festival also in terms of exhibition. Comic-Con is one of the richest festivals in Europe in terms of comics exhibition. Every year, every edition, we show more than 15 exhibitions only about comics. So also we have different contents, but we have many exhibitions about comics. And this year, that's the reason also I'm here, and we are here together with Davide Giglio and Stefano Misesti at the Taipei Book Exhibition. We started to build an exhibition about a new tradition in Italian comics. That is the tradition of manga not translated manga, not Japanese manga, but manga created in Italy and produced by Italian publishers. So this is only a small fraction of the general comics industry in Italy, the general comics market in Italy, but it's the focus of our exhibition in Taipei this year. Stefano and Davide asked me to also give you some information about the general comics tradition in Italy. Please, Stefano, if you can come back to the
come back
general.
to this number. Yeah, I see. In 2018, for example, here there are the number of the published comics book in Italy. This is a total number? It's
a total number. Italy is one of the top 5 comics countries in the world. There is Japan at the top of the chart. Then there is United States, then France, then probably there is South Korea. There are no clear numbers, or I'm sorry, I couldn't find it very precisely, but I have older.
The Korean market is growing this year. So
it's very big. It's very big since 15 years or something. But what's sure is that Italy is or close or just after the South Korean comics market. It's the second biggest market in Europe. It's the third biggest market in the Western world. And in terms of titles, every year in Italy there are almost more than 5,000 new comics printed every year, reprints and new issues, new titles. So we did a survey. We did an analysis in two years ago, and you can see the numbers. Almost 6,000 comics printed and distributed in 1 year in Italy. So in this year, the production in terms of title was bigger than France. So
really?
we are a huge producer, even if the market is smaller than French market. There is the European leader. So it's a long tradition since
I think
more
now,
than
because
1 century ago.
I remember 10 years, more than 10 years ago, the market, Italian market of comics was very low. Now it's growing compared to the last 20 years, or because these numbers are very high. Compared.
But of course, the numbers here are only the production number. It's not the market value number, because in Italy we have a lot of very cheap comics sold in newsstands, in kiosks, and these are a low price comics books. But what's really growing is the bookshop market for comics in Italy, and now it's tenfold if we can compare with 10 years ago. So the total production, the total output is really much bigger than 10 years ago.
If I may ask a question, over the years I've noticed that there is a segment in the Italian publishing market which has been growing very significantly, and it's the graphic novel. Whenever I go into an Italian bookstore now, I see a section on graphic novels, and sometimes these are foreign, but in many cases these are Italian productions. So in this total 5,963. You are also counting the graphic novel production, or is this just the
Yes.
comics?
Yes.
Yeah, they are
in
included.
terms of geography, this number, more or less, we are very. There is a very symmetric, very equilibrate, very balanced geographic composition. 1/3, 30%, more or less, is Italian production. 30% is American translations, and 30% is Japanese translation. So Italy is different than France and is different than American market and Asian markets. We are a market very balanced in terms of international production. Our audiences, our readers, are very lucky because they can choose easily many titles from Japan, many titles from Italy, and many from US. Also, there are French translation, etc., etc. But the biggest part is US, Japan, and Italian production, and more or less balanced 1/3 each country.
I see. I have another question. I've always had the impression that the Italian comics market was a bit confined to some specific demographic segment of the Italian population and market. There was this impression that comics would be consumed only up to a certain age, you know, until you were basically a teenager, and then at some point you would outgrow this type of medium. Whereas in this market, in Taiwan, in Japan, in East Asia in general, comics is something you consume, you know, across your life, even when you are
all ages,
older than 20 years
yeah.
old. What is the situation here in Italy, and is this changing, or what do you say?
We are changing and becoming an all ages industry, like in Asia, more and more. In the same direction that's happening in other European countries and in the US market. So the Western tradition of comics was, like you said, a very specific audience. But during the last 10 or 15 years, thanks to the development of the book channel, the bookshops and graphic novels in bookshop, the audience has diversified a lot. So a lot more female readers, a lot more adult readers, and also during the last few years, the last 5 years, more and more kids. The kids were a huge part of comics audience 1 century ago, half a century ago. But after the 70s and 80s, kids reader declined hugely in Europe. Now they coming back. They coming back a lot, mostly thanks to manga translations, but also to some US comics, US graphic novel bestsellers, and also some European bestsellers. So it's normalizing as a audience demographic.
Yeah, I think it also is a change of. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I read a lot of books, comics, and now growing up, I continue reading this book. So I think that the audience is become older and older because of the generation. It looks like the video games, because I started playing video games when I was a kid, and then now I continue. So in every country around the world. So I think that now the comics are more popular than before because the generation is growing up, the last generation growing up, and yeah. So I think that it's important here. My experience here in Taipei is when I go to MRT, I see maybe old people are reading a manga or comics, and it's a good it's something that surprised me, because in Milano I don't see, I don't know, 60-year-old people reading comics. But now I think that it's changing, because I'm older too now. So in Milano I can read the comics. So the generation, the age of the readers comics is rising in Europe, I think. But now it's yeah. I go to another slide, because I was talking about the comics I read when I was young, I was a kid, because I was talking about the manga when they arrived in Italy, and which kind of manga they were in Italy during the 70s, the 80s, the beginning of the manga invasion of Italy. So I see in this, I can see in this slide some old manga. Usually, I remember when in the 70s, when I watched on TV, I was stunned by the anime with this big robot like Mazinga, or I remember Goldrake.
Yeah,
or,
Grandizer.
Gundam. So this is the beginning of the invasion of Japanese manga and anime in Italy, or before of that. There was
no, of course. Of course, you said TV. TV is the point of origin for European countries and American countries for being in contact with manga tradition. TV was the first point of contact in the late 70s, when in Italy, like in France, we had the first translations of TV anime series. The Go Nagai science fiction and robot series, or also some shoujo, some Candy was or Lady
popular.
Versailles Nobara, Lady Oscar in Italian translation. Some early shoujo, but what was and also in the very late 70s, when these TV anime were translated, also periodical publisher, newspaper publisher, started to publish some manga adaptation of this TV show. So we had many manga in the late 70s and early 80s. Like you can see some cover of magazine, mostly magazine about TV shows for kids, but anime TV shows. So the magazine were full of manga versions, manga adaptations of this TV show. What's weird and very strange to see now is that the manga published in this manga magazine sometimes were not made by Japanese artists. Sometimes these manga were not the original manga translated in Italian. Some of them were recreation by Italian artists of the Japanese TV show. Because of the success of such TV show, Italian publisher of manga magazine wanted more content, more pages, more stories. So they asked Italian local artists to create and draw stories about Go Nagai, Grandizer robot, more than were produced in Japan by Go Nagai. So some of these manga of the early 80s were created by Italian artists. After that, the 80s, manga in Italy disappeared totally. And they came back during the 90s, thanks to Dragon Ball and Akira by Otomo Katsujiro success. So they came back, the original manga, and they slowly started to influence a new generation of Italian comics artists. These Italian comics artists started to create local comics, but more often very heavily influenced by manga. So what you can see in the virtual exhibition Manga Made in Italy is the most recent part of this tradition, the most contemporary slice of this tradition of heavy direct influence of Japanese manga in Italian comics. During the last decade, this influence has grown to the point that we have comics artists in Italy that really create manga-like comics, or very, very manga-style comics. Sometimes loosely influenced, sometimes very standard manga production for shonen manga, battle manga, or shoujo and romance manga created in Italy. So it's a strange story. Huh? We had manga in the late 70s and early 80s, then stopped for a decade, and slowly building, and in the last decade, we started to have a growing production of proper manga in Italy.
I have a few questions. I'm aware that some Italian graphic designers actually moved at some point to Japan and worked in some publishing houses. This is the case, for instance, of Igor. You know, for some years, he was in Japan. And it's interesting to see how the Italians adapted to a very specific culture and workflow of Japan, which is very intense, very, very fast. But Igor was telling how difficult it was for him to adapt his Italian habits to the production needs of the publishing market in Japan. I wonder if some Japanese have come to Italy and have made Italy their home, and maybe they've been instrumental in also teaching the manga style. Do we have some cases, some people that have done this?
Yes, yes, of course. Globalization is this. We had some Japanese manga artists living in Italy and or working for Italy, and Italian artists living in Japan or working for Japanese manga publisher. Of course, very rare. It's not common, but we have many cases. I remember 2 cases of a Japanese manga artist based in Bologna, Keiko Ikiguchi, or also a Japanese animator, anime artist, a very close collaborator of Tezuka Osamu during the 60s and 70s for Osamu Tezuka, very famous TV anime. She came back living in Italy, Yoshiko Watanabe, and only 3 or 4 years ago, she published a manga about her memories on Tezuka years in Japan. So kind of memoir, an historical autobiography as an animation artist living in Japan and working with the most famous manga artist ever, like Osamu Tezuka. In general, what you said, Davide, about Igor that traveled to Japan to live there and work there as a manga artist for some time is not so common. Even if we had a few cases more than Igor in the following years, and also during 2020, last year, we had a young Italian that started living in Tokyo, I think, yes, in Tokyo, and he just started to publish a series on a very famous manga magazine in Japan. So we have a new case just at the beginning now, and I will show. I hope to have the opportunity to include this new case in a future exhibition about the manga made in Italy.
If I can have another question. When I say that Italians do manga, sometimes people are surprised because it says manga is Japanese. You know, why Italians get into this? And the analogy that comes to my mind is with cinema. We are old enough to remember how Italy was successful in adapting the Western genre.
Spaghetti.
And make it probably, in some cases, even better than the original American version. You know, the movies of Sergio Leone, with Clint Eastwood. I mean, they are probably some of the highest standards, you know, up with John Ford in terms of quality. So I wonder, I mean, Italy has this quality of adapting and interpreting foreign genres, such as Western of manga. In the case of manga, what is the specific Italian touch? What is the added value that Italy has brought to the manga? Well, I'll ask Stefano first.
I think is one of important question. This, what is the common thing between Italian manga and the Japanese manga, and what are the difference? Something more the style or the kind of story. For example, the kind of story of a manga, of Italian manga and Japanese manga, are similar, or there are something special? Because I know in one of these manga of the exhibition, one of them is the set is Italy in the future, or because like in because usually when you see the Japanese stories, many stories are plot in Japan, are set in Japan or in schools or during the everyday life in Japan. So is a specific cultural set. But the Italian manga do the same, because maybe they talk about something specific of Italy in the future or in the past, or there is something in general, or there are some story set in Japan, because using the Japanese style, maybe they set the story in Japan. So what are the difference between these two scenes of mangas?
I very quickly summarize. The main differences are about visual style, not about storytelling. I mean, the main stories, the main set of Italian manga are use the same format, the same approach that Japanese manga. So if there is a school life, slice of life stories set in a Japanese city, in Italian manga, you can see the same set in an Italian city. If you read some science fiction manga set in a dystopian future of Tokyo, maybe you can read a story like Attica or Golem. You can see in our selection that are set in a future Italy or in a future imaginary city. So storytelling, more or less, of course, this is a synthesis, but more or less, storytelling is not so different. There are just cultural specificities, but it's not so different. What's most the main difference is visual, because of a double tradition we have in terms of illustration style for comics in Italy. Italy, of course, is quite known for the painting tradition, for its huge tradition of painting since the Renaissance to last century. And this is something that influenced also comics. Of course, comics is drawing. Comics sometimes is drawing with color, sometimes is drawing with painted colors or digitally painted colors. So as you can see in also in the examples we have included in the exhibition, like Cotton Tales or Lumina, the digital painting is very important. Lumina, it's more Miyazaki, Hayao in terms of storytelling, in terms of world building. But in visual terms, it's very well crafted in terms of digital painting, digital shading, and color. Cotton Tales maybe is more explicit also. It's shoujo manga, but the quality of drawing with direct color, sometimes with traditional technique, like sorry for my poor English vocabulary, for traditional technique of color inking. It's not oil, but it's also different painting techniques that are used by Italian artists in comics. And this is one part. There is also the other part. Italy in Europe has a specific tradition of visual style in comics, because France was during the last 50 and 70 years very developed in terms of color, basic color for comics, children comics like Asterix, like Tintin, and many others. But in Italy, we had a huge tradition of cheap comics in black and white. So you can see Attica, for example, that's drawn in black and white like a standard manga.
Yeah, like a manga. Yeah.
It's a battle shonen in the future, like a standard manga in black and white. So Italian comics are rooted in a huge tradition of black and white mass market comics, and in painted comics, in color comics, influenced mostly by painting than by children color stories. So this is my summary about the differences, more visual than storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling. Mm-hmm. Oh, and about this, the comic, the work we are watching, this slide, there's a special techniques to print that is like a simulation of RGB. It's a multi-chrome or something. So it's a very high quality
technique.
Yeah, it's very high quality.
We sometimes we make jokes about printing techniques and printing traditions, and many people in the book industry said that Japan and Italy have probably the top quality of printing techniques. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert of printing techniques. I'm not sure if it's true, but what's true is that we had, and maybe it's not the case, in Italian manga production, some artists like you are showing now, Emanuele Tenderini, that started to create a manga with a high quality also of printing production. So a special high level of printing machine, inking, and a special technique with special many layers of printing colors. So it's a very expensive book to produce and also to buy, with 6 color layers of color ink with a special printing machine. So sometimes the technical part of book production is important, and is important also for manga made in Italy.
In Italy, yeah, because usually manga here, I'm thinking manga is like a cheap, because they are always are black. Most of them are black and white, and they are very, very cheap to buy. And in this case, it's a high quality and expensive book, and so maybe this could be one of the difference of between Japan and Italy manga.
I would like to ask a question now about access. I wonder, I'm sure that local readers here in Taiwan, they appreciate the visual beauty of the Italian manga, but they say, hey, it's in Italian, how can I read it? So I wonder, what is the Italian industry doing to make itself accessible in languages other than Italian, of course, possibly English, naturally, but also in Chinese traditional characters, which are the ones used here in Taiwan, for instance. So what type of effort is being done to carry forward this peculiar Italian experience and make it more international and marketable also in a place like Taiwan or in East Asia in general?
The export of Italian comics in different markets and countries is something new for the Italian comics industry. Maybe it's it's strange because of such a big market and long tradition. But it's something new because the specificity of Italian production was not easy to sell to other markets because of different format. I don't want to go into details, but there was a specific mass market format that was complicated to adapt and translate in other countries. So when graphic novel started to boom worldwide as the main format for book publishing and bookshops, so Italy started also to gain some traction in terms of selling international rights. So international right market of Italian comics is something new in the last decade, and that's the reason you can't still find in different languages the examples that I just indicated. Just only one, Golem, was translated in English by Kinokuniya Book in US. Not in the Kinokuniya bookstore chain and publisher, translated in English, not in Japanese or Chinese. But I'm sure that the market is of international rights is growing. There is an international market of comics in France, in Angoulême, and Italian publisher are starting to sell more and more rights in different languages, in English countries and also in South America, Europe, etc. Traditionally, Asia has been more complicated and the market has been smaller for European production, not only from Italy. It's very rare in Japan to translate French comics or Italian comics. Very, very rare. Also, the translation of American superheroes is very rare in Japan. So I just think we just need some time. We just need some more international book exhibition to exchange, show, and share the new production. We just need a couple more years, I suppose.
Yes, yes. But I do encourage you to use Taipei International Book Exhibition also for this purpose, because this exhibition plays an important role as a platform for the sales of rights. So this is a good opportunity also to put your foot in the water here in the Taiwanese waters.
Yes, Italian publishers of the manga I selected for the exhibition were very happy to be, even if virtually, to be this year at the Taipei Books Exhibition, and I hope it's just one step to move, and we can move forward in the future.
Yeah, because it's very hard because of I think one of the most important things is the language, because it's very different. Maybe translated in Japanese, Mandarin, not just the language, but I don't know, because you have to know very well the different cultures. So it's hard to make a comics for a market of another culture. I just talk about my experience, because I'm living here, and I came from Europe. I came from Italy with my style, because I'm a cartoonist. So I want to draw some comics here, or some illustration, but it's very hard because a total different culture, and you need a lot of time to understand the other people and the market, and so you have to do step by step. And these kind of events are very important to know the different. For example, coming here, you can see different publishers and different way to tell a story, or to do a different style of a drawing. And it's let me see. Yeah, I just want to finish this part because we are finishing this conference. Just to we are talking about yeah. In this slide you can see some artists that inspire not my style, but I find a lot of important to me. There's this. Jiro Taniguchi, Urasawa, and Yaro Abe. So I read this book in Italy, and when I came here, I was not the last one I read in here in Taiwan in English, but I approach this kind of comics from this book, and living here. I started drawing something new about this culture. Just to move the topic from Japan to Taiwan. When I arrived here, I find a culture totally different, and I was shocked by this big skyscrapers or different kind of building than Europe. In 2005, I drew this story. Yeah, you can see Taipei Ilini and the museum, Chiang Kai-shek Museum. So I start to understand the culture here of Taiwan. And I represent myself as like an umbrella in this story that I publish. And reading these books, in Japanese book like Gourmet, I was fascinated by the food of this part of the world. And so the food is a topic of my comics. For example, in this slide, you can see my experience with Taiwanese food, and yeah, like Taniguchi talk about the food in Japan. I try to talk about the food here in Taiwan, and this is my experience. I publish here in a website in Italy. And because I want to show to Italian readers the everyday lives here in Taiwan. So I talk about chow tofu, stinky tofu, or the night market here in Taipei. Or in this book, I drew. I like the language here in Taiwan, but it's very hard. And I show in this book a funny way to learn Mandarin, but with some humor in a fun way, and this is and I took us I did in this way because I read some books here in the bookstore in Taipei from Korea, from travelers. In Japan, they do this kind of drawing very fast and drawing like a diary of their life in this part of the world. So it's to me it's very important to understand very well the place I live. And for example, this is another. This is my drawing Okay, and this one is from my wife. She's Taiwanese, she's cartoonist too. So we did an experiment. I talk about Taiwan when I stay here in Taiwan, and she talked about Italy when she was in Italy. So we tried to make an experiment to show different point of view for a Western people here in Asia and Asian people in Asian person in Italy. So like this one is the hobby of old people and so just to show how it's important to understand the different culture and how it's important this thing to growing the style for an artist to more thing you see, more thing you can see around the world, and you can catch the thing you like, and you can put in your drawing, in your story.
Actually, yes, you and your wife do play an important role as a bridge between Taiwanese culture and Italian culture. I think we're running out of time. We have only 5 minutes. I would like maybe to conclude by saying that through comics, Italy, Japan, and Taiwan find a common grammar, a common syntax to articulate what is special about themselves, what is special about their cultures. And each one with different specific inputs do enrich this conversation that takes place at so many levels in the cultures between the three, Italy, Japan, and Taiwan. I wonder whether from Naples or Milan today, actually, Matteo can offer some final remarks about what can be done to further promote this dialogue between Italy, Taiwan, through Japan, and the language provided by manga.
I'm a festival director. I'm a festival guy. I mean, I really think that festivals have a special role as contact points between different people, different cultures, different media. I really think that book exhibition and comics festival, like cinema festival or art festival, have a special role in building bridges. So that's the reason I'm here, and I'm very happy to be here. And that's the reason I travel to festival regularly to share some time to do to be on the presentation side, and some time to be on the audience side. Festivals are crossroads, and we are especially frustrated by the pandemic because of the impossibility of walking on top of these bridges that are festivals. So from my point of view, we still need festival and book exhibitions for this part of book publishing, of book world, because we live in a digitally globalized environment, and that's sure good. That's good for sure. But we need physical moment to meet and to touch the books, to chat personally a little bit, because we still have many parts of the book world that are not connected, and we have time in the future to do it. I hope physically, maybe in Taipei also. Why not?
I hope so.
Well, we do certainly hope so. And on this positive note, maybe we can conclude by thanking Stefano Misesti here in Taipei and Matteo Stefanelli in Milan. And above all, the organizers of Taipei International Book Exhibition. I believe this has been an initial opportunity, a first opportunity to introduce the Italian manga style into Taiwan. And there will be future opportunities not only in remote, as we did today, but hopefully in the coming years by physical presence, so that the books can be touched, smelled also as usual.
Very important. And we can remind to visit the virtual exhibition on the website.
By all means, yes, the exhibition is available online at tibeonline.tw, and I think it's already live, so it's possible to be visited. And until the end of May, until May 31st, it will be accessible
from tomorrow, starting tomorrow.
That's what they say. So maybe we can conclude by thanking all the participants here, all those who had the patience to listen and watch online by live streaming. And again, thank you so much, Matteo. Arrivederci. Grazie.
Arrivederci,
Stefano.
Matteo.
Arrivederci a tutti.
Thank you, Davide. Thank you, Stefano, and thank you, IBE.